Hey guys, my name's Big Tino and welcome back to From the Depths. Specifically, welcome to the creative mode, in which I'm going to build an airship to start our war against the Onyx Watch. Now, in the campaign, we have about 200,000 resource, so I'd like to build something that is around 100,000 materials. I don't want to go too much higher than that. Now, I know in each of my builds so far, I have set a price for myself and then promptly exceeded it by a good bit, but I really don't want to go over 100,000 materials for this. And I think that is an easier goal to meet than the lower prices have been. So that's my goal for this. Now, it is the weekend. I don't have a ton of time for From the Depths today, and building vehicles always takes a while. So this may be a short video because I'm really just going to build the airship in this video. Now, someone did request that I do a time lapse of the building when I'm not talking. I'm going to give that a try. Not sure how it's going to work or how it's going to work out. So if after I finish talking you see time speed up and me building things, then it has worked and it didn't turn out too terribly. If, however, this cuts immediately to the next part where I'm talking, then that's because the time lapse didn't work out. So we'll see how that goes. I will give it a try, but again, it's something I haven't done before, so we'll have to just kind of see how it turns out. So either way, I'm going to get to building. I'll stop talking, and I will be back with you guys in however long it takes me to get something, to get some good progress. Alright, so what I've done here in building this lovely upside down box with a hole in it is I'm starting with what I want to be the main cannon of this thing. Now, this isn't a ton of room for a main cannon, but I think it's going to be good enough. Again, I don't want something that's too oversized on this thing. And I normally don't start with the weapons. I normally try to get something of a shape first, but in my head I've got kind of an idea of where I want to go with this. I may make this box just a little bit longer too, so I'll have the main cannon here. Now, on the Owlbear, the main cannon was a cram cannon, so I'll probably make an advanced cannon for this one. Probably two big old barrels on this thing aiming downwards. And the reason is, probably big things are going to be below this ship, and small things are going to be above it. So I'll put big guns on the bottom, smaller guns on the top. So my general idea for shape is to have sort of this central main cannon, and then to kind of come off in four directions, so along the corners of that main cannon, and maybe put smaller cannons along there. So possibly cram cannons, maybe rapid fire advanced cannons, we'll just have to see. So have those there, and then so probably actually rapid fire advanced cannons along the corners, and then maybe next to the main cannon but higher up, smaller cram cannons, so that we have a whole lot of firepower aiming downwards. And that way, as we're flying around, we can broadside enemy ships just by aiming down, and that means that our guns will be able to shoot past each other because we'll have a good angle on it. Now, one thing that's very important with building an airship, at least in my opinion, is redundancy, because you don't want, a single hit to just detonate the whole ship. Making an airship that can take a hit as well as dish one out is a little more challenging than with a boat, because with a boat, your only challenge is that it has to stay above the water. With an airship, it has to stay in the air as well, and so it has to have enough redundancy where when it takes damage, it doesn't just fall from the sky. So I am going to be spreading these compartments out a good bit. And with the owlbear, what I will do is build this sort of compartment by compartment, and then I will build a ship around it. So I'm going to get back to that. I'm not going to build the cannons themselves or the weapons themselves until I have a better idea of the shape, because I may well end up changing the shapes of the turret housings. So I'm going to get back into the design of it. Okay, so this is the design, basically, that I want the weapons to have. Central main advanced cannon, two cram cannons, or one cram cannon on either side, and then one smaller rapid-fire advanced cannon in each corner. So I think that's going to be quite a lot of firepower aiming down, even if it's not, you know, maybe the most optimal way to design it. I do like how this is looking, at least in terms of design. Obviously, I'm going to, you know, shape up the turret housings a bit so they don't look just kind of like big Legos. But I think what this is going to end up looking like is we'll have a central sort of thinner body that fans sort of in and out to connect these turrets. And then sort of in these central areas here, so not quite in the dead center, but in these areas maybe beneath this wooden scaffolding here, I'm going to have rotor blades to keep this thing aloft. Now it's also going to have some jet engines on it as well, but if I can use rotor blades to help with the lift, then I can use a lot fewer jet engines. And that's just more redundancy as well, so that if some of the jet engines get taken out, the rotor blades are a bit more tucked away and protected. So that's how I'll keep this thing in the air. And then it will probably taper off to a point at the front, and then kind of have more of a hard end on the back. Just because, well, this thing is going to be moving particularly fast, but having a little bit of an aerodynamic front, make it a little bit streamlined, will help with speed greatly. And then, sort of in this central area, I'll put, that just sort of runs along the ship, I'll put all the internal important stuff so that it's tucked away behind some layers of space armor and outer armor, and also behind the turrets, because these boxes are pretty well armored, at least in terms of this point in the game, and they'll be able to take a good bit of firepower. So the turrets themselves will act as sort of a blade of armor, I guess. Then on top, I want to have some form of deck. I do want this thing to have a top. I'll probably put like a bridge, or even like a little castle kind of thing around here. And then I'll just make it sort of like the deck of a ship, maybe a little more stylized than that. But like I said, I do want to get the compartments done first, and then I'll sort of build a ship around it. So I'm going to get back into it, and I'll be back when I have a bit more progress. we're starting to look a little bit more like an airship here, I think, or something like an airship. Now, I should point out that my building style is very stream of consciousness. I do have kind of an idea of where I want to go with it in the end, but the order in which I do things is probably not the most sensible or efficient order for them. A lot of things to fill in there. I don't like how sort of bland the bottom is right now, so I'll definitely be changing that. But the general shape is coming along. We're only at 24,000 points, and I think probably most of the armor has already been built. I am going to put rotor blades under each of these little domes here. Now, rotor blades, thankfully, don't need an opening, you know, in either direction, actually, but I do like having them open on the top at least. Which means this part on the bottom here can be closed, and these rotor blades will still provide lift, which is very nice. Now, in terms of appearance, I'm not sure how much I'm going to like that. So it could be that I end up cutting a hole in the bottom anyway, just so that it looks a little better. But I do like the general shape that we're coming up with here. I think it is going to be a somewhat boxy design in terms of an airship, just because bringing this to a point will make it come out just very, very long, way too long. So I'll probably have more of a curve at the front, something almost like how the owlbear comes out at the front. And that may well be how I end both directions here. And as you can see, I have these little compartments here in the middle where I can put, where I have enough space for most of the gubbins. I've already built the AI behind some stone there, because stone is nice and it blocks EMP. And we should have plenty of room for everything we want. I may put a couple of small rapid-fire advanced cannons on the top as well, just to fend off enemy fighters and things like that. Or I may go with some small anti-fighter missiles. Not sure yet. The armament of a ship is usually something that I decide on very close to the end of the design rather than the beginning, which again may not be the most efficient way to go about things, but it is how I normally go about things. So I'm going to, I think, construct the rest of this interior space here for the hull. I think I am going to continue this all the way up to here, and then this is where I will sort of taper the front up. So I'm going to get back into designing, and I'll check in with you guys in a little bit. Okay, that's about the shape that I had in my head, roughly. You can see that when this thing is above a target and it's flying around on a broadside, its weapons are going to be able to aim downwards and hit the target as long as it's got enough range so it can bring all of its weapons to bear, which will be nice. So yeah, I think that's a shape that I'm happy with for the most part. Like I said, I'll need to do a few touch-ups off camera, but I think that's looking pretty good, at least in terms of what I can build. Next, I'm going to build the deck, and that's a bit intimidating looking at it now, honestly, because a deck, you know, this is a whole lot of space. This is a lot of space to do stuff with, and you can't just leave blank space. At least you can't leave much blank space. So there's got to be a lot of stuff done on this deck. Probably one thing I'll do is I'll have sort of smaller raised sections across the deck, so that'll break up the very flatness that I've got going on right now. And those raised sections I can use them for smaller anti-air cannons, I can use them for missiles, I could just use them for decoration if I wanted to. I definitely have a nice enough room for a nice bridge along the back here. Now, I'm not great at building bridges, which sucks because I really like bridges. I like when ships have a really cool bridge. I think that's a really nice addition. I'm just not particularly good at building them. So I will probably save the bridge for last and then just kind of fit it in as I have room. So another thing I'd like to do is give a little more armor to the tops of these turrets, because right now they have metal armor that's 2 blocks thick on all sides except for the top. So even putting like a little raised wooden platform above each of these turrets along the sides would be very helpful, just to kind of mitigate any damage that happens to hit it in the top. Although ideally, not much will be shooting at this thing from the top. It's certainly designed to take hits from the bottom instead. So I'm going to get to work on that, and I will talk to you guys in a few. I think it's coming along fairly well. The more I built onto this thing, the more I realized that it really is something that should just be belching out smoke as it moves. And so I built these two little smokestacks. They're a little bland along the sides here, so I may do something to make those a little more interesting. But otherwise, I'm fairly happy with the progress so far. I've added these little houses here, or these little housings here, on top of the turrets, and also the smokestacks on top of the side turrets, as a way to give it some armor while also being a little more decorative. And there are loads of things that I can put on top of these. I could put small missile turrets up here, which is something that I'm leaning towards right now, I think. I love the way that missile turrets look. Just having, you know, a turret that tracks the enemy and then fires missiles, I think is a cool design. So I'll probably do missile turrets up here. Just, you know, small missiles. I don't want anything huge. I don't want missiles to be this thing's main weapon. But having them as side weapons would be good, and it would help against enemy aircraft, like especially fast-moving aircraft, quite a lot, I think. So, also, the more I look at this thing, the more I realize the bridge should be in the middle. I don't think... I don't know. I'm torn. Because I think having a bridge at the back looks cool. The only thing is, I then have to balance it with something else at the front. And something that's not as big, but also something that uses as much space, or uses the space as well as the bridge does. And I'm just not sure what that would be at the moment, because this is quite a lot of room here. I guess I could put some kind of crane, maybe, or maybe some more guns. I mean, you can never have too many guns. But I'm just not sure. I definitely want a bridge. That's going to happen. The question is whether it's going to be in the middle, right on top of the main cannon, or if it's going to be in the back. And actually thinking more on it now, I think I do like the idea of it being in the back still. I think that is still going to happen. So yeah, I think progress is coming along quite well. There's going to have to be quite a lot of work done on the inside to get this thing to run. But I'm pleased, I think. So far. Alright, let me get back to it, and I will talk to you guys some more in a little bit. Okay, I'm getting fairly pleased with the deck. I built a bridge, which I think doesn't look terrible. Get rid of that. Yeah, again, bridges aren't exactly my specialty, but I think this looks decent enough. Also built some light fixtures here, a little bit of a walkway. Now the only thing that's left is what to do at the front. And I'm honestly still not sure. I know I said there's no such thing as too many guns, but I think this thing is going to have enough guns as it is, maybe? Question mark? Although, I could... If I used these as small autocannon turrets, then I could maybe put missile launchers here. But I don't like that. I don't like that idea, but I don't want to do that. I think what I may do instead is put... Maybe I'll just put a big cram cannon on the front. That'd be cool. I could make it a turret so that it could turn and fire even while it's broadsiding. I mostly just don't want to leave this space empty. But I'm not sure what would be good to put here. I think maybe a big cannon that starts like here and goes all the way up to the front would be good. Now, that does mean that I can only fire at things that are directly in front of it, and this thing is going to be a broadsider, which is a problem-ish, but a problem only if I plan on making the cannon particularly expensive. If I made the cannon mostly decorative, then I could do that, and I could make it look sort of like a bombard type deal. I'm liking that idea more. I hate to waste the points. I mean, I know we're only at 32,000, we have a limit of 100,000, which means we do have a good bit of room to make these turrets pretty good, and to armor up this thing pretty well. Yeah, maybe I'll make it a cannon. Because it's just the perfect spot for a cannon. But it would be a useless cannon. And as much as I love spending material frivolously on just decorative stuff, cram cannons are expensive. And that's going to be a lot of points that don't go to anything useful. I could put an anti-air gun. Maybe just a small rapid-fire advanced cannon built to fight enemy aircraft. In fact, I do have somewhere, here it is, I do have such a cannon pre-built. This is a pretty good anti-aircraft gun. I could put it like here, decorate the turret around it, or the housing around it, and then it would be able to fight off aircraft reasonably well. Okay. I'm not totally against that idea. And there is plenty of space in the hull here for me to make an armored turret mount. So yeah, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I will do that. In fact, I think I will. So let me get on that, and I will be back with you guys in a few. I think that looks like a pretty decent airship. Certainly not the most intricate thing in the world, not the most pretty thing in the world, but it is an airship, and I'm liking how the shape is coming along. In fact, I think the shape is pretty well done. What I'm actually going to do now is, I think since the interesting parts of the build are mostly over, is I'm going to cut this next part out, where I spend, you know, probably more time than I have so far, doing all the internal workings, doing some armor, maybe prettying up the sides a little bit, yeah, I will do that, and I'll be back as soon as this thing is ready for its first test flight. Alright, I'm back briefly. I do still have some finishing touches to make. I want to design this thing up just a little bit better, but I wanted to show you that I have not added any jets to this thing. I've not added any jet engines at all. This thing is hovering right at about 150 meters, which is where I want it to be, using only the propellers, using only those dedicated hellblade spinners. So it's pretty stable. I'm very impressed how stable this is. This isn't using a PID or anything. I've just set up some automated control blocks to control the altitude, which is why its altitude is hovering between about 148 and 151, because the automated control block system for propellers is not nearly as exact as a PID system. At the same time, it is very, very stable. I am very pleased with the balance of this craft. Now, I am going to add some jet engines to this, just for redundancy's sake. And I'll set a PID system that'll keep this at around 150. And I'll set up pitch and roll and that sort of thing as well. And again, I don't think this thing needs that. I don't think it can certainly fly and fight without that, but I want it for redundancy's sake. Like I said, if anything destroys one of these propellers, I want the ship to still be able to fly. So I'm going to tinker with that a little bit. I'm not going to go overboard with the jet engines. You can already tell that the propellers alone holding this thing up they're a little fuel intensive. So what I'll probably do is set the jet engines to be just a little higher than 150 so that the propellers stay on their lower setting. Okay, that looks like an airship-ish, kind of. So I've done some tweaks to it, a lot of tweaks to it. Did a little bit of decorating, added a detection system, and I think I'm feeling pretty good about it. I'm curious to see if it's going to hold up in combat or if the recoil of this bottom gun here is just going to flip it over. It does have some recoil adjusters, but it's certainly not enough to completely counterbalance it. So hopefully this thing is stable enough to recover from the recoil of the cannons. Let's give it a shot. All right, the guns are turning. It's a good start. The missiles are going. I don't think they're going to get there. I think they're a little too short range. Or maybe they are going to get there. That's awesome. I will need to set a maximum range for them, however. Let's see, the fire rate. I need to adjust the fire rate on those cannons, on the auto cannons, so that they have a good, reliable rate of fire. And you know what I didn't add? And you're gonna laugh. I didn't add any means for this thing to turn. Completely forgot about that. So it's only turning because it's using recoil, which is why it's so far away. But, yeah. Couple adjustments to be made. And then I think it'll be pretty good. So I'm going to cut the video here while I do a few more adjustments to make this thing, you know, able to turn, among other things. And I will bring this into the campaign next time we play. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.